All right, how you doing? I'm Ishmael Sistrunk with the St. Louis American and STLamerican.com, here with Palmer Alexander, our Rams expert. We have been spending some time down at the Rams practices, the mini camps that have been going on. Right. Palmer, what have you noticed? What stood out to you during those visits?
The first week out there doing the visits, obviously you noticed the speed. We talked with Derek Richardson last week, and we was talking about him getting acclimated to the playbook, and he got a lot of reps, as we saw, playing a lot with the second unit, which I didn't expect him to see so far, and that's really encouraging because, again, him coming from a small school and then being able to transition, watching some of the guys like Jenkins and Johnson, again, intermingle with some of the veterans. So that was kind of cool watching those guys interact. And it gave you a better gauge of what to expect once training camp starts.
Mm-hmm. And, like we talked about before, Richardson looked very fluid, very fast, very agile. He's a very explosive player, so definitely think he has a chance to make the team. He's probably gonna have to do some special teams work, but he was looking pretty well. Another thing that we saw, wide receivers. And this seems to be a very interesting way that this will play out because we have Danny Amendola coming back from injury. We just drafted 2 wide receivers. Right. We have a lot of young wide receivers already in the mix. How do you see that battle unfolding?
Well, I see it unfolding like guys like Brandon Gibson, Denario Alexander, those 2 guys, and even Steve Smith may really get pushed and may get pushed out of the door. I watched Steve Smith, and I didn't really notice any kind of explosion. Maybe he still got some ways to go from the knee injury, but Danny Amendola was running like his whole body was on fire, and the way his tempo, the way he practiced, as if he's trying to make this team, and they are trying to make the team, but it was just the way
I feel great. I'm running around good. I feel good. Just kind of getting my football legs back under me is the key. And these first couple of days were rough at some points, but at the end of the day, I feel pretty good.
You got a lot of young receivers, rookie and second year. What are you able to teach them or share with them to help them?
Just the intricacies of not necessarily the offense, but just being a professional, coming to work and expecting to win, and going about everything the right way.
Brandon Gibson just Brandon Gibson. That's just who he is. It's just like it has nothing with him has changed per se. Denario, he's brittle, and it's just a shame. But I really see Denario and Brandon Gibson right now having a hard time making the team.
Out of practice, had some lingering issues that are going on. You said that he may, he'll have a tough time making the team. If he does, we kind of talked off camera about, making him a specialist. Maybe that's the best use for him, to use him in the red zone, maybe use him, when you're backed up in your 20 and need to stretch the field, but you can't really use him just in a normal mode where you have him out there for 3 downs, because like you said, those injury issues.
Exactly. And then you think about Jeff Fisher being a new coach. He doesn't really know Denario, and Brad Schottenheimer doesn't really know him. And I don't think that Fisher's going to be babying or trying to coddle Denario. And that's why I feel that his chances may be even cut less of making it. Just like you say, will Fisher be willing to allow him to be that special? Like we talked about Steve McNair, even though he was well established, you knew his talent level was so great that you could kind of live with him, not so much practicing, but getting those reps in. And Denario is still a weapon, but again, I mean, at what point do you really risk keep putting him out there?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot is going to depend on the health. He doesn't have that history with Fisher, so if he can show to be healthy this offseason, which is very early right now, that's a big if. But when he's healthy, he is dynamic.
Oh, absolutely.
He can stretch the field, he can go up and get it. So it'll be interesting to see how anybody else stand out to you, or anything else that you noticed during the visits.
Cortland Finnegan. Cortland Finnegan was very vocal out there, especially during the 11-11 drills. And that's one thing when you come into a new system. It always helps that you know the coach, you know the system you come into, instead of being that new guy. Because see, he's not just Cortland Finnegan, free agent pickup from Tennessee Titans. He's Cortland Finnegan playing in the same system that helped him become a Pro Bowl cornerback. So he's telling guys where to be, telling them how they need to be positioning themselves, walking guys through that process. So it was great to see him taking that leadership role, as we need him to, because the Rams signed him to a huge contract. So you gotta, if they're gonna pay you to be a leader, you need to act like, and he's doing a good job so far.
Right. If he can bring that that nastiness, that grittiness to the defense, that'll be a good thing. Last thing we'll talk about, it's been a lot of talk about the Rams and the CVC and the whole stadium deal. If you had to handicap it on whether you think the Rams are going to stay or go, what are your thoughts on that?
I believe the Rams are going to stay. The Rams are just trying to get the best deal possible. It's a lot of people with these knee-jerk reactions. Let them go. I mean, that is so asinine. St. Louis needs football, and it's good for the morality of your city when you are able to house professional team, and when the Rams were the cream of the crop in football, St. Louis was media dollars. Everybody wanted a piece. St. Louis Nelly was doing great. It just seemed like it had a great mushroom effect, and you can't afford to lose the Rams. If the Rams go, there'll be no more professional football. SEC can never replace professional football. There's just nothing like it, and there's only 32 teams with an NFL team, so we need it. I don't care what nobody says. St. Louis needs professional football.
Yeah, and I agree with you that a lot of it is, the reaction. You hear the dollar amount, you hear this $700 million thrown around, or another $5 million possibly on top of that. So you hear these big numbers, and you get these reactions. But of course, this is all negotiating.
Right.
Stan Kroenke is going to use that LA or any other city he can use as leverage to get the best deal. The CVC is going to portray the Rams as the bad guys,
right.
As, going to portray themselves as poor, so they get behind them. Maybe a little a public urging will get the Rams to come a little more their way. But I think in the end, I don't think Kroenke wants to move to LA.
Right.
LA is such a big mess. They got 3 or 4 different teams trying to build stadiums, and they want to buy a team. They don't want to bring somebody over to lease their stadium. They want to buy the team, and I don't know if Kroenke wants to sell unless he can get a Magic Johnson $2 billion type of deal out there in LA, which I don't think is looking at. Anything you want to add?
Hey, just keep checking us out. We're going to keep providing you guys with more, better coverage, expanding the brand, and hey, this is what we do. This is what I live for. I love sports.
All right. How can people get in touch with you again? How can they follow you?
They can follow me on Talk Sports with Control Chaos. You can also watch me on iWatchRadio.com or Moses Keeping 100, and you can read me in the St. Louis American.
All right. This is Palmer Alexander. I'm Ishmael Sistrunk once again with St. Louis American and STLAmerican.com. You can follow me on Twitter in the Clutch STL.